Good evening, and thank you everyone for being present here for our session today. We have a new person who will be walking us through the session. We have a new MC. I'm glad to have a few people join in my learning squad to help me with all the learning initiatives. So over to you, Mandar. And just so you know, we are recording this session. If you choose not to be recorded, feel free to keep your audio and video off, though we would love for you to be on video and be with us throughout the session. Over to you, Mandar. Thank you.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Super. So, very good evening to everyone here. And as we progress, I think we have a session around how to leverage stress. So I just thought, can we just get your views on if stress can be used to better outcomes at work? Maybe you can put that in the chat while we start putting some ground rules in. So as you all know, the session is being recorded, and as Shanti mentioned, participants can choose not to participate through use of a microphone or camera, though we would love all of you to be on camera and participate wholeheartedly to make the session as engaging as possible. Uh, I also request all of you to keep your audio muted so that we minimize the disruption. And as you all know, we have a very esteemed panel of guests here, MG Raghuraman and Nitin Goyal. As we go by the session, I request you to please post your questions in the chat, and we'll be covering all the questions later in the session. So just a quick intro, and then I will hand it over to MG and Nitin. So emotions and stress are commonplace at work. We all try and manage them, but can we leverage our own stress smartly for better outcomes at workplace? And challenges at work and resulting stress can both be motivating as well as draining. And this webinar may provoke some thoughts on how we could deal better with work challenges, results, and consequent work stress. I'm really excited about the session, and let's get straight into the session. So let's put our hands together to invite MG Raghuraman and Nitin Goyal. Before I hand over the mic to them, a quick intro. I think all of you know MG Raghuraman, also known as MG. He's a man who has worn many hats in his work life, from having been a house captain in a military school to becoming a railway officer at 22, and then an abrupt dive into IT industry, global software clients with US, Europe, APAC, closing up as CIO of Emphasis for 6 years, and then taking a third innings as a professional coach in the last 6 years. He loves to be called a very blessed and happy grandfather of two lovely grandchildren. Nitin is personified by passion and drive, served in IT for 25 plus years as corporate leader. He's accredited by ICF as PCC and by EMCC as team coach practitioner. He is an award-winning coach who has been working with system and teams as coach for past 6 years. So over to you, Nitin and MG.
Thank you, Mandar, and thank you, Shanti. And Nitin and I welcome you all today. My request is you will put less stress on me if you can turn on your videos and keep your mutes off so that you can shoot questions any time of the day. And there are no ground rules when Nitin and I do presentations or webinars. You can interrupt, ask questions. Nitin, may I request you to also keep a track of the chat so that in case we miss some questions, and feel free to put your hand up, video, and then ask questions or give your comments, interact on the spot. No need to.
Just so you know, people are already saying use stress is very good. So some of your slides are already out and open.
Oh, good. Very nice. So let me get started right away. So let me put this on presentation mode. So we are talking about anxiety to action. The key thing is leveraging work stress. Nitin, you would like to say anything more before we get on to it? Because we are short of time, right? So we just move on. And any other ground rule?
No, MG, go ahead.
Nothing. Okay. Keep a watch of the chat. Thank you. And So it's about leveraging work stress. We are not so much talking about managing work stress or avoiding. So the key word is here. Anybody comments on this slide? Any comments on this slide? This is yesterday's news.
Created quite a flutter.
Yeah, created quite a flutter, no doubt about it. What did it do to you, Arun?
I have watched videos of her in action, and I've watched those videos where her child runs into the room, etc. Especially when she's, talking to the press or, addressing public, etc. But I think it is her decision finally. What ultimately she spent 2 terms in office, and I think she's taken her decision as to when she wants to withdraw from a public position or whatever it is that she's withdrawing from. Yeah.
Yep, you're right. Cost of flutter. The key thing is she said, I don't have enough in the tank like before. And coming from a prime minister who's done her job for 5.5 years and very successfully, beautifully handled the pandemic in New Zealand, everybody was so, gaga over this. So even a very, very successful person can get stressed at work, out of turn. So when does it hit you? Not just before you take up a job or during it, it can be even at the peak of your career. That was a thought which came to my mind when I thought about Arden. And let's go. This is in context of this. This presentation today is about us sharing some of our observations, some analysis which Nitin and I did based on our coaching experience in the last 6 years. We have done close to some 100 plus 100 and maybe 130, 40 coaches, especially the last 3 years. We were on to intensive coaching thanks to COVID. But this is not a conversation on any particular competency, coaching competency, or it is just for us to provoke some thoughts and reflect as coaches on what happens to the coaches and how do they experience and leverage their stress at workplace. So these are observations of ours. We are not coming with some specific conclusions. And if you see, we will be discussing today some amount of some discussion on the DNA of work stress, what we saw in our experience, and what kind of coping skills people had, and one coping strategy which we wanted to talk about today at the end, which we found to be useful as coaches. So feel free to comment. This is not the end all of leveraging stress, just one viewpoint of this is setting the context for the day.
Just to add what Anji is saying, while we share our experiences, we would look forward to see what you have experienced in your coaching journey. I know many of you are coaches here, almost all of you are coaches. Please feel free to share if the experience has been common or different. We'd like to hear that.
Yeah, as not only just as a coach, Nitin, we'd also like to hear as a corporate player when they have played a corporate leader role, or as an individual. So what happens to yourself as how do you leverage your own stress? Happy to hear that as long as time permits. Yeah. So we looked at, we wanted to limit our scope of discussion to this job stress, not life stress. So job stress, if I look at it, all of us are very familiar work situations are dynamic. When I joined the Indian Railways as a class 1 officer after being selected from UPSC, and they give you a seat at the head of the table all the time in class 1 service. So you think you're on top of the world, and in the beginning it is top of the world. Sometimes as you grow into the job, you realize the conflicts and complexities as they come across, challenges, politics, new leaders, new bosses. You're successful in a company, suddenly your boss changes, an acquisition takes place, a merger takes place, a new client, your role changes from sales leader to country head. Boom. So the work situation is dynamic. That's number one given. In all those coaches whom we saw, majority of them, they had gone through multiple changes in their work situations. So with this dynamism of work situation, the stress triggers are also dynamic. Same job, not stressful, 6 months back, suddenly has become stressful because a new team member has joined and is causing you a hell of a lot of problems. So the stress triggers to do with the demands from the work and the person's capacity to cope. Now, many times our capacity to cope is not tested till a real challenge comes across. One thing we found is in all our coaching conversations, absolutely normal response to demand of work is stress, and everybody is okay with that. Nobody says, I want to avoid stress. I have not heard anybody saying that. But the choices they make to the stress to give in, for example, Arun, do you think the New Zealand Prime Minister has given in, or she's trying to avert it?
No, it is a situation similar to what many sports people have also taken similar decisions. Yeah,
right.
They know when their body is saying no, and they've not given in, but they've decided to take care of another aspect of their well-being.
Absolutely. Now that you said about sports person, reminds me of what Virat Kohli said. The last 1 year, he was in a slump. And he was telling in that article that even with Anushka, he was throwing tantrums and fits of rage and being unreasonable. So the response is a choice that we make. We have given 5 here, given our dodge, manage, leverage. We are going to talk about leveraging. Okay.
So MG, can I add one point?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So it's also a question of priorities. So in a way, the choice is a priority. She is prioritizing something else over something else. Planning to walk away from it all is one way to look at it. The other way is my priorities are different now than they were some time back.
So along with the dynamics of the changing work situation, maybe her priorities also have changed. That's
Probably.
What you're saying, possibly. You don't know that. Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely.
I think as mentioned, as MG mentioned earlier, this is what we are sharing from our experience. So while there are many people who would take actions and move towards actions, what we have seen in past is that many people keep thinking about a situation without taking an action. And that's why it's a choice that we make. Are we just giving in, avoiding, or just keep thinking about it? Unnecessary thinking, which is leading to more stress instead of taking an action. And that's what the experience has been, that instead of taking an action, people keep thinking about it. And the moment you help them move towards the action, the situation is resolved.
Yeah.
Can I just add here, Nitin?
Yes, Johnny, please go ahead.
So the point is, in her action, there are many interpretations. Some interpret it as giving in. Some would interpret it as a graceful choice making, right? And I think that's important for us. And I just put it in the comment a little while ago. How do we differentiate between coping and dealing with
That's
the same
why,
situation?
Yeah, excellent. And Johnny, just hold on to that. Keep it in the parking lot. I saw your question on coping versus dealing. So here we are talking slightly, okay, we'll not take Ardent's case specifically, but can we leverage the stress? That's what Nitin was coming to. We will come back there. We'll just keep it in the parking lot. We'll see if we can address it at the end of the. Okay.
So Deepak has his hand open, MJ.
Yeah,
Deepak.
go ahead.
Meaning we can move on. I was just talking about my perspective is slightly different. I think not only is she brave enough to talk about burnout as a prime minister of her country, she knows that she's going to be looked at as a leader who expressed her inability to lead anymore. And I thought it extremely brave. Also, her party is losing the opinion polls compared to the Conservative Party, right? So she perhaps is also coming from an accountability that the party needs a leader which is far more ready to take on the conservative forces, so that they could have a better chance the polls coming. So it's not just coming from, she had to, in her mind, I feel she had to vacate the position so a better leader could be in her place. So it's not just throwing in the towel as much as also from a place of responsibility.
Yeah, Deepak, one point here is, let's try to look at her, not the reasonability of her decision making, but we're looking at, was there stress on her? Okay, was there something which drained her energy to perform? And we'll shift that context to that point of view. Okay.
Yes, fair enough. Meaning, but MG,
okay.
She's a prime minister of a country, so
does Modi have stress or not? Yeah. Okay, so here is one. This balance is forever dodging all of us. What is that? When work demands, let us say you've taken on a new role, which is very challenging, but you're being promoted to that role. Okay, you've not had a past performance in that. So it can challenge you, challenge your abilities to perform. So some people believe they have the capacity to cope. Example, my CEO of Emphasis, when he became Emphasis CEO after 1 or 2 years, he told me, listen, to be honest with you, I did not know what a CEO job was. I read about it all over the place, internet, everything. I've attended endless seminars, but actually becoming a CEO of a $1 billion company was an experience. So initially, many people have a perception of what their role is, what their job is, what their demand on them is, and they believe they have the capacity to cope. Some believe they have the capacity to cope, some have the capacity to cope, but they don't know that, right? So sometimes they find it beyond their capacity to cope after some time, not right away. So we've tried to put this as two things which we observed in these coaches who we saw. When the challenge related to their coping capability, when there's a challenge, when they love it. The second case was when it does not challenge the person at all. It could be they took on a job which they liked it. For example, a person who was a sales head in one of our coaches, he became a quality head. So initially, he thought it was challenging, but later on he found this is not the kind of a job. It did not, there was no adrenaline in him, which the sales guys always feel, right? That motivation, that urge to perform, it was not there. So it was not okay with him, not at all. He wanted that pumping of that blood, pumping of that, that desire to succeed. In the quality job, although he was made the quality head, he didn't like it. It didn't challenge him. Now, his performance started dropping because he didn't like it. The question to you all, you can put it in the chat or you can discuss it. From your experience, which do you think is more stressful, both from you as a coach and you as a leader? When the challenge exceeds your coping capacity, the demand of work is so stressful, or when the demand of work is not challenging at all, which causes more stress? I will now stop sharing here for a minute, and so that we can see each other. Nitin, you're keeping watch on the chat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nikhil, go ahead, Nikhil. Which one? Nikhil, you're on mute. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. No, in fact, MG, you covered, I was thinking of, even in respect to, the New Zealand Prime Minister, right? Anyway, she's a political figure and there's always two sides to whether she's highly admired or not. But the point is, your point now, the challenge is too much. Okay, it's really, if I'm coping well, as in I'm doing well, I'm successful, I get the adrenaline and I get the energy and motivation, right? But when I hit a wall, and that's really, the test of resilience, and then you come up with the, the appropriate response where you can sustain. I mean, you take the example now of, say, sports, right? And that's really what it is. I know, of course, being a prime minister is different. It's a longer game and it's probably a lot more stressful. But even then, if you're successful, you'll probably carry on. If you're not too successful, or you don't really see, that, oh, I've hit a wall, I'm not likely to succeed, or, it's just a lot of pain that I have got to anticipate, then that stress might become too much and you might look for something away. So I don't know, it's just a speculation. One can't read her mind, the New Zealand Prime Minister. But yeah, I think you also, one of you mentioned, right, that she's not doing too well politically. Yeah, so that's also, the scorecard.
Yeah. So my small request, we'll shift the conversation from the New Zealand Prime Minister. We're looking at you. Which do you find, in your experience, most stressful? Excessive challenge or lack of challenge?
I think that's self-explanatory, right? Stress is arousal, and excessive arousal of the nervous system is stress, right? So it has to be when the challenge is more than the current skill, right? So your current capability, it's not matching. If it is not challenging enough, it's more towards what we would call boring and boredom. That's how I see it.
Okay, thank you. We'll just hold on to that. We'll put it to the parking. You said interesting words. We'll come back to you on that. Yes,
so
responses
has been mixed, MG. Almost even.
Yeah, somebody raised their hand also. We'll just allow them to speak. I think, was it Sajib who rose their hand? Yeah.
Yeah, I had raised my hand, but then I guess someone did take up the point which I was supposed to talk. But in that, though now we have stopped discussing about the New Zealand Prime Minister, but I thought this applies to everyone, even in the corporate sector, that before they are asked to leave, it is better to leave yourself, So she probably, she also had this challenge which she probably faced inside her party. Similarly, within the corporates also, if there is a boss who is not liked by people, he should be able to sense that he is not liked by people, and he should quit himself or herself rather than being asked by the company to do so.
Okay. From the chat responses, it looks like whoever responded is kind of 50-50. Yes, Johnny. Go ahead, Johnny.
Deepak had his hand raised before me.
Thank
Deepak,
you.
go ahead.
Yeah. Since you pose a question like this, I think stress is a reaction to what's happening. So A or B will work depending upon what my reaction to it is at a particular point in time.
Yeah, but what, in your opinion, causes for you? What causes more stress?
So I've been stressed when so I think it's both. I've been stressed even when I had very little work. In one organization, I had very little work. We had gone through a merger, and for 7-8 months we had no work. So it also caused me stress. And there's a time when there was work that I couldn't perform. It was beyond my ability to perform.
Between the two, what would you trade for?
What would you? Sorry?
What would you trade? given these two
What would I
situations,
trade for?
yeah.
I would prefer a place where I still am feeling the challenge is there and I'm not able to cope up with it.
Yeah.
For me, that's how I would opt.
Which means for you, not having a challenge is more stressful, really speaking.
Yes, for me.
Yes, Johnny. Go ahead, Johnny, please.
Same thing. Thanks, Deepak. I think it is, I'm just alluding to what he's saying. What comes to my mind is a rubber band. So in the first choice, it empowers me as long as the elasticity is there. But when it goes beyond that point, it snaps. But no challenge is very, very stressful. I would not choose that.
So
I would
you'd
choose
rather
a
have a
challenging...
rubber band which is stress rather than not having the rubber band at all.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, you know what you say is very interesting. I don't know how many of you ever had a situation where your boss resigned or your boss has not been still brought into place. Your CEO resigns and the new CEO is yet to join and you don't have a boss. You know, I found there were some 3-4 months when I had a no boss situation and I was reporting to the boss's boss and it was frightful for me because the boss's boss was like God. You could never reach him. He was not available. So there was no one to tell you with your anything, good, bad, ugly, nothing. It was stressful.
I have a current coachee who is going through something very similar.
Oh,
so she's heading the geography taxation in the finance team. Financial controller has quit. And the company's headquartered, this is in Vietnam, but the company is headquartered in Switzerland. And there is a CFO in Switzerland. There is also an in-country CEO. Both are her skip level managers. And in the last, and she had to go through some very challenging government audit as a taxation head. It was a very interesting journey that both of us had, in the coaching space. And then it's wonderful to see. And finally, she got a boss who's on deputation for 6 months from Switzerland, which is not the permanent boss again.
So finally, people do like bosses, that means. Okay. Anyway, coming back. Yeah. Thanks, Johnny. So it looks like the house is kind of divided, not divided, I would say. There are two perspectives that all of us go through both these stressors, and it looks like both are applicable to. So
what has been more stressful for you, Andy?
For me? I can collapse into oblivion if I have boredom and confusion on this side. I just can't be in this zone. This is fine with me because I know even if I go to the extreme limit and get overloaded, overworked and things like that, there is some ego satisfaction as if I'm the most important man and the world loves me and there is a lot to do and there's a lot of other compensatory factors for your stress, Here, I feel as if, look, nobody needs you. You're done. Retire. Finish. Your battery is dead. I don't like this situation. This causes me a lot of stress, answering Nitin here.
Yeah, same here, Emily.
Yeah. Sushma, can I ask you this question? Here or here?
Yeah, okay, tell me.
Which part of the distress would you live with?
Which part of the distress would I
live with? Can you put up with this side or this side?
The first side, I think I can.
You can live with it, you're saying here. Very interesting. Hold on to that thought, Sushma. I don't know why I chose you, but you will soon see what we found. What we found, obviously, for all our coaches in this, 100+ coaches, especially one of those global technology companies with whom Nitin and I were engaged for the last 3 years, their work demands have been continuously fluctuating. Market changing like crazy. Technology, boy, within 3 years, so many things have happened. Everybody is talking artificial intelligence, data analytics, and big data and whatnot, and attrition, big time, huge stress for leaders and managers and whatnot. Stress also is fluctuating. So we found as if you cross this side, extreme ends, you will do something or the other. Like Ardman, she has quit her job. Okay. Someone else will do something else. You'll do something which is, let's not go into this zones outside the red on both sides.
They'll change their role. I've done that, MG. When I was in my corporate position, you change the role. This is not good enough for me.
Yeah, just move away from it. Change the role, change the company, do something. Here, in our situation, when we coached people, large amount of people had this problem of they were in a good job, they were performing well. Stress is about optimization of your stressor and your motivation. You are motivated, like sales guys. They are under huge stress, performance stress, but they are hugely motivated. They're somewhere here all the time. Now, suddenly what happens, especially one person who won a Tesla car for being the best sales officer in one of the companies, she went into this board. Suddenly, because she couldn't repeat the previous year's performance. And that was stressing her. Can you believe this? She was voted as the best salesperson in the previous year. And now the current year, the next 2 years, she went into this mode. There was boredom, as I think, was it Deepak who said that? And there was some impaired attention. She was not doing the jobs which she was doing perfectly. And that's why I was engaged as a coach to coach her. She was in this zone. And the problem was she didn't know it. Like, why am I here? I was a performer. Very interestingly, this was not happening. At least in what we saw, there were very few people who were burnt out or who were getting stressed because of excessive challenge. This is our experience. I'm not saying this should be the data which is there. We are talking about the 120 or 130 people whom we coached. We found this was less situations, and this area was the one where we found predominant number of people.
Another thing that we have observed is that larger the company. So whether you're on the right side of the stress or you're on the left side of the stress, has a huge. There's a lot of factor of the culture that you're working with. Some of the startup companies, there's a lot of work which is there, and culture is flexible. People can challenge and so on and so forth. We found them to be on the right side of the stress, which are these dark blue lines that MG has drawn. While the larger organization, their culture is difficult to change. It's not agile. Things are set. They need to work in the boundaries that they seem to have perception about. It's not that the boundaries are there, but there is a perception that these boundaries exist.
Yeah.
In those kind of cultures, we have found people to be on the left side of the stress.
Precisely the reason why I quit as a railway officer, as I was additional divisional railway manager in Southern Railway, and having 28,000 people reporting to me. And I quit at that time after 22 years in the railway service and jumped onto something which I could definitely not cope with, becoming an IT leader without knowing one word of programming, okay, and join a global multinational company. So, but I would rather jump out from here, and doesn't matter where I fall. That was my call. Maybe that was wrong, right? I wouldn't have the guts to do it again. But this is what we noticed. As Nitin says, maybe as coaches, when we coach people with a different cultural background or different company culture, some companies who are in the scale-up mode or the startup mode could be here. A large number of people may be getting burnt and overloaded. And yeah, any comments? Any comments on what we just said? I just pause for a while here. Anybody?
Yeah, indeed, there is a thought here from my side.
Yes, Jay.
Okay, so there is an expectation that I have. Okay, and there is my internal capacity, means capability or capacity. Okay, and which comes from my earlier experience of taking the position or the role, and then whatever comes, challenging or challenging it, and then I have my own set of learnings that I'm staying with. But my expectation is also there to go for it. Okay. Now, when I go for it, until I go for it, I will not be knowing. Even that causes a stress.
Absolutely.
The moment I go for it, and then the challenge differs. So there comes the A and B part. Okay.
It's just like you're telling me you don't know swimming and you are standing on the deep end of the pool. You're highly stressed. Look, I shouldn't jump. I don't know which end is the deep end. But once you jump in, the stress becomes different. It is not the choice of the stress. You're right. You got a point.
And I'm sensing that there is a gap between the expectation that that as a person I consider it, which I want to map it with my capability.
Absolutely.
Which I'm not in a position to do at that particular point in time, the situation or the context or the people that offers. So that's where it is. So how I am open enough to learning is what I'm bringing in this group. Yeah,
absolutely. You got a big point here. See, as coaches, you do not know what this guy's dynamic situation or work situation or past experience or how he handled coping with stress. We don't know that. But the best that we can do is to make him self-aware of his journey on stress management or stress leveraging. Once that person understands his own, let's say, stress DNA and his, then probably you are helping him or her to find the right solutions. That's what we came to conclusion.
Yes.
Very interesting. Thank you, Jaya. So coming back here, this was what was happening in the sense people were fluctuating here. See, the problem is not when you're here. You have some stress, you love it, you're performing, you're doing well, and it is your behavioral efficiency is at your peak. Large part of the time, people are there. It's not that they all need coaching assistance to remain there. Sometimes when they fall off the cliff, either this side or this side, it's then, if they are not aware, it causes them more stress. Of course, being aware is one thing. Not being even aware of the stress is even more stressful because you do not know what's happening to you, but you're feeling not good. Here we found is if you're able to help this person become aware, hey, I'm here. I was here. I'm no longer there, but I'm here. That was the place where as a coach, we could help. So we were asking these kind of questions.
Just go back on the previous slide for a minute. Another thing that we found is that while people are in these zones, that we have marked, it was easier for them to come out of these zones. The moment they slide forward, either to the right side or to the left side, it became that much more difficult because the downward path is more steep. And it became difficult for them to come out of them, and it took longer. Absolutely. When they are in the blue zones, it is easier for them to come out in the center. It took lesser number of sessions. But when they're in the deep end, it took more number of sessions to explore, come up further. That's another thing that we know.
Yeah, Nitin, I remember one of our, you and I know that one of my coaches was absolutely having an inferiority complex, and he was right here. And it took quite some time for him to make those kind of moves toward, as you rightly said, Nitin, this climb is better than this drop, because here the drop is severe. So that's an interesting point. Yeah. So in all coaches must have seen this curve. One of the things we found was, suppose you do not know you're stressed or not. You do not know whether you're in the negatives, in the distress on the left side or on the right side. See, often there is a confusion, right? In job-related stress, I don't know why am I stressed. I tell myself I'm overloaded, but is it really overloaded? Or am I doing something which I don't like to do? Am I bored? So to help them differentiate this stress pattern, one of the things which we found was have a discussion on the how are they performing. If you ask this question as to how do you feel you're performing to your potential? How do you think you're performing as compared to last year? How are you feeling about yourself? That could perhaps trigger some conversations within themselves. Whether, because we found if the performance drops, there is some stress going on somewhere, no doubt about it. They are all experienced people, intelligent people, emotionally balanced people. Why should, so something was happening. One point was, can we use performance as a dipstick to understand your own stress? That was this point of this slide.
Yeah, I think the second question is very interesting. And I have almost found 70 to 80% of time, the moment you ask this question, Kochi will just talk. And you can just sit back and listen to what Kochi is talking and giving to you. Because they would start comparing their own performance from the previous to now, explorations, reflections will happen, and they'll give you a lot. So this is they have found this very helpful in our sessions.
To help them become a little more aware of their stress patterns and stress positions. Any comments on this, anybody? Many of you are not on video, so I'm not able to ask you. But Rachna or Nadia, Surekha, any comments on this? On a conversation around performance to help the person talk about performance. Yeah.
Yeah. So I probably have one question over here. And the question is, say, if a CEO is there, he's been consistent in the role, he's been doing the job for 6 months, 7 months. So generally the role becomes an autopilot mode for him at that point of time, so he's dealing with the stress, he's dealing with everything, he's dealing with whatever is happening in the organization. And there is still a slag or a stagnation point that he reaches there, and he's not able to perform. And at that point of time, he knows that I'm doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all right, but I still don't feel like doing what I'm doing, and it is still stress to me. So where is the person and what is the person doing? He's absolutely performing great at his whatever he's doing. And yeah, that's
an interesting question. So I would only look at it this way. If he says he's on an autopilot mode, and see, when it comes to, are you performing as well as you were performing in your last year, 6 months back? And ask that person to say, okay, how will you define your performance? How do you define your performance? Is it by the money you get? Or see, we don't have to ask these leading questions. How does that person define? Many times we have an internal definition of what we call performance. Hang on to this question, Rachna. I'm just going to give you the solution. Not solution, one possible answer for this, okay? Thanks for asking this question. At that time, you don't know whether that person, he feels that he's not performing very well. So is he this side or that side? I don't know that, right? Hang on to this question. Thank you for asking.
Explore the feeling more, I guess. If he's doing tasks...
Nadia was raising her hand. Yeah, Nadia.
Yes, Nadia.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for this webinar. I had a question that is more related to the previous slide. When, as a coach, we have to have the capacity of sorting out the information and assessing really exactly the situation. If the person is between the red and blue, it might mean that we have to tell the person that they have to have more professional, like a psychiatric assessment rather than continuing with coaching, I guess. This is where is the limit of coaching.
That is an area. You're right, Nadia. That's an area, at least I'm definitely not anywhere near competent. Like, if he has already gone down that path, well, you perhaps are right in recommending a more professional help there. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right.
Thank you.
Yeah, Sureka, you want to ask?
I had a very simple question. What I'm seeing here is it is being spoken. I mean, stress is with relation to performance. Now, I had a case where I was coaching one CEO, and his role actually changed from being a line function to an administrative head. Okay. So for him, the stress really came not about performance, but the sheer redefinition of his importance.
Role.
Yeah. And it amounted to sheer redefinition of whether he was important enough or not, or where is he? I mean, 20 years he has been the CEO and he was in the line function, and suddenly now he is in an administrative role and so on. So that's where his stress came from. So I
let me ask you this question.
Let
me try to put this in this slot, right?
Sure.
So let's see here. Let's go back here and see what happens to this guy, gentleman. So he was at the top of his thing and he was enjoying as a CEO. He was performing excellently as a line manager. And now he is being given a job which is administrative, right? Let's put it that way. So according to him, is that administrative job demanding more from him or demanding less from him?
So maybe in terms of sheer amount of work might be the same, but yes, from his life
it is not really, it is not perhaps challenging him enough.
No, not in the, I won't say challenging him. I would say it was not to his liking. Because the job he could have done it could have challenged him if he would have taken it up in a different way.
Whichever it is, there was some amount of apathy and boredom here.
Absolutely. So, I mean, he didn't like it. Simple, full stop.
He didn't like it. So very evidently he's somewhere here. Now, when he is here, the question is this. When you're not in your best, it's not possible for you to perform excellently. See, you and I know that, right? If you're a musician, if you're not feeling like it, you can't do well. There's something in you which tells you when you're on top of the world and you can be at your best. A small case study. When I feel very bad about life, something happens, I'm bored, angry, and I'm tired. The best way I have found out is to start doing a 30-minute Leslie Sansone walk in front of the TV, push your legs all over the place and exercise. It may be an absolutely stupid thing. I mean, you're not in a mood for it, but better to do that and get out of this. It's just like, pouring some cold water, 4-degree water on yourself to shock you out of your boredom,
The state change your state.
Yeah, Sureka, that's the point here in your case, in this situation is, this CEO was a good guy. He was performing well. See, and the company must have thought by making him administrative head, it's better for the company, making better use of it, according to them.
No. So let me clarify. So this was a change worldwide.
Worldwide,
so they went from a P&L structure for local country to vertical structures across different verticals, which So that was a different thing. Yeah, correct.
The company did not look at him. The company did a structural change for people like him. Okay, poor fellow. Poor fellow, and he just got the wrong end of the stick.
And then that really had a issue, and of course.
I think a discussion around what is in his control and what is out of his control and what is the area of concern.
Correct. So that's what I went through, but I'm saying not every stress is related to performance is what I was trying to figure out.
So if you look at the previous slide, the work may demand more and challenge you, and work may not demand and challenge you enough. And some people will be fine, some people will not be fine with it.
Correct.
So in this case, the CEO, his job was not challenging him enough, and he was not fine with it.
No, but her question is, can we really use performance as a dipstick? That's why we also put a question mark, Surekha. We are not
correct.
saying it is.
This is the only one. Yeah, correct.
This is one possible indication. In your case, maybe you might have to dig deeper to understand as to what is stress. Yeah.
And for example, in this question, am I performing to my potential? He would have definitely said no. This is not my potential. So
absolutely. So once you got that, maybe from there you could dig, you could make him ask more powerful questions to see how he can stand. Yeah. Thank you. That's a great thing which we did. So this is another interesting we found this so-called coping ability with stress. There are some people who we saw, they have a perception they can cope, whether they have the skills or not. And there are some people who allow it to go out of control, whether they have the skills or not. That's another thing, very interesting thing. The belief system in yourself was so predominant here, right? And I mean, I don't want to go into details of this. So there was no algorithm possible to find out as to, we have to do the individual conversation with people to get to the bottom of it.
But the finding was very interesting. Just the fact that people who have a perception about their ability to cope were able to cope it better. Whether they had the ability or not doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just the sheer perception that they have a better control or they can do better allowed them to do better.
Yeah.
In comparison to those people, even if they had the capability, the fear of not able to control, fear of unknown didn't allow them to pursue further.
Mandar and Shanti, how much time do we have? Are we nearing the end of the hour or something, or can we take another
30 more? We have 30 more minutes, Sanjeev.
Yeah, we will give them all 10 minutes of Monday time a little earlier. But Nitin, on your point about belief in the perception of your coping capability, it's also something to do with self-confidence, right? Self-confidence is not always about how much skills do you have. Yes, skills and competence, capability, past performance adds to self-confidence, but there is also that faith in your ability. There are a lot of very talented people who don't have faith in themselves. Then what happens to all those skills and abilities? They get diminished if you don't. And there are some who are foolhardy. They have more faith in their abilities than what they really have. Any comments on this? Anybody? Have you seen in your coaching conversations? Yeah.
On issues like this, which is different from, let's say, understanding of hard skills, right? I find that there's a very thin line between what my perception of my capability, the actual capability itself. And we see it all the time in sports, for example. The person who's almost a point of arrogance on what he or she can do on the field tends to perform much more than what we think that they're capable of.
Are you talking about Virat Kohli?
No. Meaning,
that's kidding. Yeah.
At this level, right? Even the technical ability. I think I've come to the belief. I wouldn't say belief, but my sense is that it's a very thin line between what we believe we are capable of and what we're
the actual capability.
Yeah. I don't know how many of you looked playing Carolina Marin in badminton. She almost plays at the level of arrogance, when she plays against the opponent, irrespective of who opponent is. The pace is very fast, attitude is fast, and in the other opponent, they may not. And that makes her world number one. She was world number one before she got injured.
So Deepak, when you said the line is very thin, you mean to say the person doesn't know the difference? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that perhaps there's no difference itself.
There's no difference itself. Oh, that's a very interesting point. Yes, Nadia, thank you.
Yes, to add to what Deepak said, sometimes it's a question of learning habits or learning skills or methods, because sometimes there are people who wait till they are perfect in doing something before they dare doing it, or they say they're capable of doing it. And some others, they just straight away go into the new exercise and then they do it. That's it.
So Nadia, you seem to have a peek into my next slide already.
Really? Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll just hang on to that. But yeah, yes, Jay, you want to say something?
So for me, with respect to that performance, the discussion that's going on, two words come into place, which Sir John Whitmore also brought it in one of the quote, that potential and performance.
Yes.
So how much potential that one has, I have. Okay, so and based on that performance, it's not about the past performance, it's about the potential that you can bring it at any moment in time, which has this identity, beliefs, values, and capability together. Are you can you learn from the challenge and grow out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The potential is important. If it is going to be a very now the potential is there, but I did not identify it, and I'm not in a position to use that, convert that potential, like energy conversion. No? Then it is of no use. Then it is also stressful, baggage.
Very interesting. Performance is related with your past. Potential is related with your future. It's your perception of your future ability to perform. Whereas performance is a declared data on what you did. They are not exactly related. They are related, but one does not exclude the other. Like you can't say I have a great performer, therefore I have a great potential. Like every business leader who's reporting to the CEO can be promoted as a CEO, right? As a potential. But just because he performed excellently as a chief sales officer, that does not mean that he is guaranteed to perform as a CEO, not necessary. And actually, this is one of the big problems, at least in government service, like in civil services, in IAS and IPS and railway service. We get promoted based on your point system. For becoming a divisional railway manager, you got to have minimum of 4 5s and 1 4, which is 24 out of 25 rule. To become a general manager, you must have 5 5s, which is 5 outstanding in the last 5 years, 25. So it is just your past performance and your date of birth will decide whether you become a cabinet secretary or the general manager of the railway or chairman of Air India. Simple. It has got no analysis of your potential to perform, as Jaya was just talking about, which is very different.
It's not only government. If you look at the growth that IT had starting from early 90s till late 2010, the growth has been primarily based on the performance. And there are a lot of leaders who are sitting in a position where actually they don't have the skill to be in that position, but they are because of their past performance.
I hope you're not talking about me, but then I beg to differ, because the people like Sundar Pichai and IBM leaders are just about.
I'm not saying everybody. I'm not saying everybody, but there are many leaders that I've seen.
Yeah, but there are many more who reach that very top. See, 20 years back in America, it was impossible for a brown skin or a black, I'm sorry to make a racial comment here, to ever reach the top in any organization. Okay, even women. Now that diversity has happened. You see, you can see the number of Indians who are leading. Oh, you have a British Prime Minister who is a brown skin. And 2004, he did his MBA in Stanford, right? Think about it. I mean, it is just
who has raised the hand.
Yeah, basically, it's just that it's not that they had a past performance capability as a Prime Minister of any other small country to become Prime Minister of England. Well, you take our own case of Prime Minister Modi. Before 2000, he was not even a chief minister of Gujarat. And one day suddenly he becomes a PM. Well, so coming back, answering this question, Nadia, to your point, I'm just going to say, how can we leverage? We are going to make one comment.
Manoharan has raised his hand. I think he wants to.
Sorry. Sorry, go ahead, Barbara.
Sorry, you can call me Naz. My second name is.
Sorry,
No worries, no worries, no worries. Very interesting what you're discussing. I just wanted to point out a small example about, you spoke about belief and you spoke about potential and stuff like that. There's a great example, and Deepak earlier spoke about sport. So I'll keep the same analogy. I think all of us are aware of Roger Bannister and the 4-minute mile, right? Most of us may not be familiar that along with him, there were many other athletes who were of similar potential. So he did a lot of mental related training and to change the belief. We call it, mental rehearsal, right? You'll be familiar with that. They call it visualizing and stuff like that. He crossed that 4-minute barrier. And the most surprising thing was, for many, many years, decades, it was not crossed, right? 1 minute after he crossed that barrier, some 30 people just crossed it.
Very interesting.
A phenomena in sport, just like the Kenyan runners, for instance, So your analogy of belief systems, I'm sure you're going to touch upon it earlier, is keeping the potential the same also. Why does some fellow bring the gold and the other guy the bronze?
Absolutely.
That's a deep question. I train sports people also, mental training. We worry about that question a lot. Anyway,
actually, many times I try to think about it myself. Forget about my coaching. How strong is the belief in me? When my faith in me is powerful, is a question which we should all ask ourselves before we help our coaches to ask themselves. Because sometimes this question is frightening to me, slightly unnerving me. It's all right to coach people. What about coaching yourself? Why am I not becoming? See, I have never found out an answer as to why I did not become a CEO of a company. I was 6 years as the reporting to CEO of a $1 billion IT company. And was I happy? Of course I was happy. But I didn't even nourish a single thought. See, I told myself, I used to make a joke, unless I assassinate my current CEO, I can't become a CEO. And even if I did assassinate him, there are 4 others who want to take up that Mughal emperor's role. So one of us will kill each other. I mean, this kind of jokes apart, really didn't work hard enough to try something else. Now, was it a question of lack of faith in your own potential? Or maybe I needed one of the ICF coaches to take me there. I don't know. Okay, let's go here, back. So we are into this slide. I want some comments from anybody. Agree, not agree? Any comments?
Agree. This is like Johnny's rubber band stretched enough, but not so much that it breaks.
Yeah, but it is also a voluntary stretch.
Yeah.
It could also become involuntary at some point.
Sometimes.
When I'm pushed to the edge of my current paradigm, and I'm pushed beyond my comfort, then it's not voluntary, but then I discover a new paradigm.
Yeah.
I move out of my current box only to get into a new box.
Yeah, but then somebody pushes you, but when they push you inside into the deep end of the pool and suddenly you started swimming, you make that voluntary from then on.
Exactly.
See, they pushed you into the pool, but the swimming has to be done by you, no?
See, this is where I think we resort to our creative. We are created to survive. So the survival in each one of us, the survivor in us comes alive. And it sometimes is not triggered voluntarily. And Shareka's example is also very similar to that. It happened involuntarily, and then it brings out something which was never thought of.
But I want to make a comment on what you said about we are created to survive.
Yeah.
I was thinking many times about it as I hit 65. I'm 65 plus now. I realize I'm created to do better for myself. Constantly, I'm trying to be better than myself. I was 64. When I am 65, When I'm 66, I'm trying to be better than what I was at 65. See, actually, the feeling that you're going down the hill is actually more frightening. Let me honestly tell you. You have an inner craving to do better. For example, you eat matar paneer today. Tomorrow you want to eat matar paneer with palak or palak paneer. You want to do something better. When you go to a restaurant, you don't order the same idli dosa every day after day. Someday or the other, you will say, okay, let me try something else. You like to do better things. You don't go to the same resort for a holiday. When you play music, you want to do better with your instrument. You want to sing better. You want to sleep better. Have you thought about it? We want to do better for ourselves, not just survive. Johnny, sorry, I'm not saying you're wrong there.
No. So I fully agree with you, because the notion of survival is like saying you've got to keep running to stay where you are.
Yeah.
So
minimum is running to stay where you are. Better than that is running to go better than where you are. Yeah. Excellent.
But
Thank
isn't
you.
that a process of evolvement? I mean, the human race is created to evolve.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
So whether you're running or whether you're staying stagnant is a choice that you're making, but you're always going to improve little by little or a day by day. You know, maybe today, if I start going to gym, I will not see a change tomorrow, but down the year, down the, 6 months, 3 months, I will see a transformation and I will see a change. That's how the persistence and consistency keeps going about it. So, and if we don't stress on the persistence and the consistency of being who we are every time, we will not evolve as an individual that we want to. So if it's like, going back to that rubber band example, and voluntary, if you're stretching it ahead and moving it across, it's about the extension. It's not about the evolvement or the thing. How much are we extending ourselves or stretching ourselves in that voluntary space, and then not snapping out from there? I think it's the beauty is about coming back to the position and making that flexibility, or making us more agile towards the stress that we deal with.
And the most importantly, Rachna, all which you said is excellent. It has to be worthwhile. You do the gym, not because the idea of doing the gym, you want to look better, you want to reduce weight, you want to improve your waistline, you want to become smarter and fitter. It has to be worth it. It has to be worth it. Actually, this reminds me, when I look at this, I have a much greater respect and empathy for women in the last 6 years of my life than ever before. Even when my daughter was born, I didn't respect my wife so much, because she used to complain about back pain during her 6th or 7th month of pregnancy. And I made even a silly caustic comment, hey, Tika boss, there's so many women give birth to children. It's not, I mean, it must be a regular stuff. So don't make a big deal about it. And I still regret for having said that. When my daughter gave birth to 2 grandchildren, I know now, so closely I have watched what she went through. By God, this was a voluntary effort, worth accomplishing, worthwhile, and stretching beyond every possible thing, emotionally, mentally, physically. I mean, she had to drop her job as a PhD as a scientist. I mean, it is just, that phenomenon, really made this slide really meaningful to me, of seeing, and that was the best moment of her life. And I realize that now. Any comments? I mean, ladies, you're all ladies, you must be hearing one of those male chauvinists talking some rubbish. But any comments on that?
Only say that during any woman who goes through pregnancies and during 9th month swear that she's never going to have another child.
Because
but when they see that little tiny, worthwhile, and that's a different feeling, and you forget about the pain. You are numbed by every other feeling.
And then she goes for the second child then.
And then she goes for the second child.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you for saying that. So we are talking about this thing called flow. I'm sure many of you coaches would be familiar with this. A feeling of total involvement. When it must be happening on a regular basis to you. You can hit flow in the internet, and there's so much of material to read. I can't even pronounce that guy's name who wrote this about flow. That holistic sensation, that feeling that, when you're in that mood, you're not distracted, you're all on it, and it is giving you the best, you're utilizing your best potential, you're full of energy, you love it. I mean, you feel it. There are times, I'm sure, when I cook these days, irrespective of how well I cook, my wife thinks still that I got a long, long way to go. I am in flow. I love it. I put on some music, read the YouTube, exactly verbatim repeat the recipes. Well, it doesn't happen exactly the same way as the outcome, but that doesn't matter. But I'm in flow. I love it. I enjoy it. I would like to ask you, how many of you have had this flow feeling in the recent past? A quick example. Yeah, Johnny, go ahead.
I said, yes, I've had the flow feeling.
Just tell us what happened. What was that flow?
I mean, it is in most of the coaching sessions, there is a sense of flow because I don't realize anything about myself. It's just in that space. It's like, Hariprasad Chaurasia is playing the flute. Initially, in FICCI auditorium, he know that he's playing the flute. But after 45 minutes into that concert, you don't know whether he's playing the flute or flute is playing him. And that's why I written there. In Sanskrit, it's called Sahaja. And that Sahaj moment is in each one of us. When we do things with the sense of flow and with the sense of involvement, we don't get tired. There are days when I have 8 sessions in a day, and that's by the end of the day, it's my most in my energetic best compared to a day when I don't have a single session. Thanks.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. So we are aware of what is flow. So we just, Nitin and
MG, Naz has raised his hand.
Yes, Naz, sorry.
You're on mute, Naz.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to what you were saying about stretching and about worthwhileness and even flow. I think it's Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, his name is.
Yeah.
Spell it would be a difficult thing.
Yes.
Anyway, the point is again another analogy. There's a PhD doctorate which is called the mundanity of excellence. In that, to cut a long story short, you spoke about deep end of the pool. It was about swimming. One small action was practiced for 4 years repetitively to win that gold medal. It is called something called deliberate practice. All musicians know it. All people who are in everyday practice know it. It's called deliberate practice, and that's what you're alluding to, which means it's voluntary, right? And when you do that deliberately, whatever you put in is what you get out of that. So I'm in complete agreement with that statement. And when you put that practice over years, it's called riyaz in music, in Hindustani classical.
Yes.
That's when the flow comes. It just doesn't come, by chance.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought I'll add that.
Yeah. Naz, you set me thinking. When I retired from Infosys at the age of 60, I wanted to get back to my guitar, and I joined a guitar class. And so there were 3 other colleagues with me. One was a 13-year-old guy, and another one was a 21-year-old guy. And I was afraid to even tell my age. And he used to call me MG. And then we used to say, come on, MG, let's jam now. You play this, I play this. And I was wondering, what am I doing here, man? 13-year-old. And to be honest with you, I was doing funny things, mundane things, doing silly things, which would have otherwise bored me to death. But I thought it was worthwhile. Thanks for making it, reminding me of that. Yes, Deepak.
I just wanted to go back to the earlier slide. I thought.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Explore the idea of this one was effort. The relationship between a guru shishya, where the guru is pushing the shishya beyond the comfort zone. Because, and I wanted to hear also Naz, because he's also working with sports people, because we don't know what our limits are. We trust the guru to push us beyond what our limits are. And I think our tradition has that the guru is we have so much trust in the Guru, right? That we feel that they know more about us than we know about us, right? And I wanted to compare that with the coach-coachee relationship, and what is the coach's responsibility, or I would not say the responsibility is a bad word, coach's role in challenging the client.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you have absolute unconditional positive regard for the coachee, you can't be looking at how are you sounding, right? You got a point. Absolutely. So we are in the last 10 minutes. So we'll just go to this particular slide, which is our we love this slide. Deepak Naz is from the same book. Flow channel. This happens for all of us. I've seen my granddaughter when she crawls. She is here. She's doing very good crawling, and she gets bored. She doesn't want to crawl anymore. So what she does, she tries to get up. She falls down. There's challenges. She's not able to stand. So unless she learns to balance and walk with the tender feet and rolling all over, then only she can walk, and she starts tottering. Then she further challenges herself, goes this way, and she keeps moving till now she has come to walk and run now. See, as compared to what it was 2 months back, she's from here, she's come here by throwing herself some challenge and increasing her skills. Now, which comes first? Whether you jump into the pool and learn the swimming, or learn swimming in the shallow end and challenge yourself to go to the deep end of the pool, are two choices. You could do this way. Somebody pushed you into the pool, you gasped for breath, somehow came up, overcome this challenge, and soon you learn floating and you improve your skill. You came here. Other one is you start flapping, hold the bar, have a coach, and then he teaches you little by little, and then come there.
So some of the interesting observations around this chart while we were coaching are that obviously, the path that you take is very individualistic. Whether you increase the challenge and then increase the skill, or increase the skill and then increase the challenge. And obviously, people who are, less fearful would take the path of increasing the challenge, and dekha jayega jo hoega. Right, we'll see what happens. Versus people who tend towards perfecting their skills before jumping on to what the outcome would be. Very conscious about having a perfect outcome, would first increase their skills and increase the challenge. So some of the questionnaires that we give to our coaches and we do Belbin, that talks a lot about perfection. People who are in the space of completer finisher, and they kind of move towards the perfection, and their behaviors align very much, in terms of how they would want to choose the path. The guy who is a perfectionist would always choose the path of increasing the skill before jumping onto the challenge.
He doesn't want to fail. He doesn't want to fail because
he doesn't want to fail.
Yeah. So this is also to do with some amount of, as Nitin was talking about, some risk appetite which people have. Coaches to coaches, there's a huge difference between their own iceberg and their mental state of risk. As she was talking about that person whom she was coaching, right, who was a CEO, right, was a line function head for about 15 years and suddenly becomes an administrative head. Now for him, he obviously is somewhere here. Now what's going wrong here? Does he not have the skills to be the administrative head? Or is the challenge not enough for him? What's bothering him? When will he go on to the flow of what Johnny was talking about? Being in that zone, you're in that zone. How does he move up to the zone? Now the person whom I was talking about, he was in the zone, but he came down because he lost his track somewhere. So the thing is, as Rachna was talking, we all need to evolve towards as we go up. We are automatically raising our challenges and increasing our skills as we go by in our life. It's a natural thing. If you're a cook, you do initially you use chaat masala to make up. After some time, you create your own chaat masala and you refine your food to excellence. So you challenge yourself that I'm not going to buy ready-made food now. Now, if you enjoy cooking, if you're in the zone. So the point is, as Nitin was talking, it was very different, right, Nitin? Many of the people wanted to go here. Some people wanted to go this route.
Yeah.
But it's their choice. As a coach, you can't tell them, look here, your risk appetite is very low, so you better do this.
Yeah, so in some of the cases, I've observed this pattern and shared it back with them. Hey guys, this is what I'm observing. You are not taking risk. You want to perfect yourself, and so is this how you want to be in the coming time frame? And what kind of a leader would exhibit this kind of a behavior? And yeah, that wasn't the easy question to answer.
Yeah, in fact, we used to ask them, where do you think you are today? Are you here, here, here? Or are you here, or are you here? Where do you think you are today? What is causing you? What is your stress? Is it anxiety to perform, or are you bored? What's happening? When you show this, they normally like to take a position. They say, I'm oscillating here, sometimes I'm here, sometimes they could say anything, but I don't know what they will say. Ask them to reflect. After that, we found them reflecting more about where they are and what they want to do.
So we have just 5 minutes away, MG. Just wanted to.
Anyone wants to comment on this? We found this a very useful model to have a discussion with the coachee to get them to be aware of where they are. First is, where are they? And where do they want to be? If these two are connected with them, then it is a question of just taking action. From anxiety, they will move to action before you can say Jack Robinson. The point is to become aware of where you are. We found that as instead of trying to tell them, look, a lot of such, if you read books on stress, they'll tell you meditation, keep quiet, peace. We are not going anywhere there. First of all, you're not qualified to talk about it. What we believe is take action. Take action and move from whatever position of stress you are, boredom or anxiety, whichever way you are, move in the direction of flow. That is the best thing that we can do. So we encourage them to do that. But which path, they have to decide themselves. So with that, we will stop. And if you want, I can put this back on the screen for anybody to comment. Otherwise, we will stop here and close.
Let's just stop sharing, MG. Let's hear if there are any questions.
We put something in the parking lot, but Nadia, you understood where I was telling you that you had a peek into my slide because you spilled the beans on action. Yeah. Arun, Vandar, anybody, any comments from what you saw with your experience? Is it tallying with what you have been doing, Anand? And you could feel free to speak. Yeah, for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, so we give our session back to Mandar.
Yep.
Hey, thanks, MG and Nitin, for a great session. I think I was looking at the comments and interesting session, good insights and all right. So it's definitely helpful. So any last minute questions to MG and Nitin before we go to the announcements?
Yes, I have a question. Yeah, so I'm sorry I missed, it's so interesting. I missed the first part, about half an hour of the session. So I was just wondering, who were the people that you examined in this, because I didn't get a clue as to
who are the people we examined? Okay, I'll just quickly share with you people not
so
examine.
It's not a research, Naz, just to answer that question.
Yeah, but anyway, the answer is here. About 60 mid-level managers, and we can't name the company, a global technology company, a big global technology company, IT services companies, CTOs of a US corporate giant, some CEOs and direct levels of 3 or 4 scale-up companies. We looked at all of them. Yeah. I mean,
so in total, an assimilation of about 130, 140 people that we have coached.
In the last 3-4 years. Yeah. Although we said 6 years, but really the last 3-4 years. Yeah.
Wonderful, because I've seen that you've been very careful not to enter into the territory. You've asked very interesting questions and it's spot on. And how they find answers, maybe other experts will find them. Just again, to use the analogy, just to add to what you're already saying, is the last one which said flow anxiety versus this. The quote sometimes, including Dronachari, who's the ultimate coach that we all know of Arjuna, is that to find the balance between boredom and anxiety, which means if you take on a task which is too strong for you, it will increase your anxiety. And if it's too easy for you, you'll fall into the boredom area. So the coach always tries to find individually a track which will keep the person balanced on that. And usually the individual does not know where that stands. And a coach always helps. And therefore, to help him find the flow and the answers as they go along. Some coaches may do a little more than some others. For instance, all the other tools that you said, okay, now I'm on this path. What are the additional tools I need? It may be mindfulness, it may be rigorous physical exercise, whatever that is, gets added on top. So it makes a lot of sense, is what I'm saying, your slide, the last slide.
Yeah, thanks, Naz. See, even as a coach, you yourself also don't know what's going to help him most. You have to only get that person to reflect and find out what's best for him. Yeah, as you read, sometimes we may see being a quintessential coach of not making any leading questions is perfect. But then you have to sometimes do the Drona bit of saying, okay, Arjuna, focus on the eye. Come on, don't look at anything else. So sometimes you might have to step out of that, conventional quintessential coach role, and provided you are sure that it's going to benefit the coachee. Often Nitin and I argue about how much can we step on the grass, In the lawn, it's written here, don't step on the grass. Can we step on the grass as a coach and violate some of the ICF coaching rules? That's something which...
Can I make a comment about that? You're very right, but one way out of that I have found in my way when I'm talking to youngsters, very, very tempting, right? And we should not cross that holy grail, the barrier, is to ask the question to them, what do you think? And don't give the answer, but take them in that direction, and you'll be surprised that they come up with it and they feel much better about themselves than you.
Yes. One of the most difficult questions which I have found is when one of those coaching sessions happened 2-3 times with me, he said, MG, fantastic. I love the coaching and all that. Boss, let's not forget about it. I want, you've been coaching me for the past 8 months. Give me your opinion of where I am today. Boy. He said, I'm not going to let you go. Today, the last session, I want you to tell me, how good am I? Oh my. Okay, with that, we'll stop. Nitin, any closing comments from you? Otherwise, we'll...
No, nothing. I think the only thing I'll say is that, when I heard that statement of the best moments of life, I realized that while you are living the best moments, you don't realize them. You only realize that best moments of my life were in the retrospective in past.
Or the best
moment at that time, the time has gone.
Yeah, that's another thing, important, interesting point. Okay.
Sure. Thanks, MG, and thanks, Nitin. Any other questions for them before I take over? Okay, so let me just take this opportunity to make a couple of announcements then. Our next session will be on 6th of Feb around coaching across cultures. So please join Rhonda Bowen and Sushma Bantia for a fireside chat around how culture ignites coaching. Bring your burning questions on 6th of Feb at 6:30 p.m. And the other thing is around the ICF India Coaching Conclave 2023, which is being hosted by ICF Delhi NCR chapter in collaboration with various chapters like ICF Bangalore chapter, Chennai chapter, Hyderabad, Mumbai, and Pune. And with about 20 plus speakers, 500 plus delegates, if you can be part of the most impactful in-person coaching event in 2023.
You can tell
to
the
be
dates
held,
also. Dates
yeah,
also.
to be held on 17th and 18th March at Hotel Le Méridien, New Delhi. So we welcome you there. Shanti, if you have anything else to add.
No, you've covered it. I've pasted the link for the registration in the text chat. You will get the save the date tomorrow and soon to be followed with the detailed information on the workshop on 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Signing off.
I just wanted to know about a little more information on the ICF conclave in Delhi. That's happening.
Ask away. I'm not sure if I have the answers, but I'll find out the answers. Go ahead.
No, I really don't know about it. I've just got to know because I'm here today, and that's what I would say. Though I've been directed by the ICF chapter to be directly, associated with the Bangalore chapter after getting my membership there, but I don't have any formal engagement with.
Are you a part of our WhatsApp group, Rachna?
No, I am not.
Can you message me, ping me your number so that I can reach out to you and we can get you included so that you have all the information?
Yeah, thank you. I have just sent you on a personal DM.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Fine. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.